The submersible's lights cut through the oppressive darkness of the ocean depths. Dr. Laura Reynolds sat quietly, her eyes fixed on the screen as her team guided the craft deeper into the trench. The pressure at these depths would crush anything unprepared, but their state-of-the-art vehicle hummed smoothly, unfazed by the crushing weight of the water above. Laura had led dozens of deep-sea expeditions before, but something about this one felt different. The anomaly they had detected on the sonar earlier was like nothing they had ever seen. And her instincts told her they were about to make a discovery that could change everything. The hum of the submersible became the only sound, broken by the occasional static of the comms. "Anything yet?" Lara's colleague, Jonas, asked from the control room up on the surface. "Just more ocean floor," one of the crew members answered, their voice tight with focus. Lara's fingers drummed lightly on her console, eyes narrowing at the blackness on the screen. Then it happened. A massive shadow emerged in the distance, something so colossal it seemed out of place on Earth. Her breath caught. "Hold steady," she instructed, leaning in as the submersible's camera focused. There it was. Not a rock formation. Not a sunken ship from recent centuries. It was much, much older. "It's a fleet," Lara whispered. "An entire fleet." The ships, massive, long forgotten, buried under millennia of sediment, rested silently at the bottom of the trench. The lights of the submersible danced over the corroded metal and towering structures, revealing intricate designs that had no place in Earth's recorded history. These weren't like any ships she had seen in all her years of research. They were far too advanced, the lines too sharp, the structures too otherworldly. The team on board grew silent as the realization washed over them. "How is this possible?" Jonas's voice came through the comms again, but there was no answer to give. There was nothing in human history that even suggested the existence of technology like this, let alone buried in the depths of the Pacific Ocean. "Get closer," Lara ordered. Her eyes were glued to the screen. The submersible glided forward, the structure coming into full view. What had once been gleaming battlecruisers were now coated in coral and encrusted with the passing of time. But something about them still screamed power, dormant, waiting. Suddenly, one of the tech monitors began to flicker. Lara noticed it immediately. "What's happening?" "I'm not sure," the operator responded, adjusting the controls. "There's some kind of interference, but we're not getting this from the surface." "Look," Lara said, pointing at the screen as the camera panned over one of the ships. Strange symbols were etched along its hull, symbols that were strikingly familiar. It wasn't alien. It was human, or at least, it had been once. Jonas' voice crackled again. "What are you seeing?" Lara leaned forward. "It's human." The words felt impossible to say out loud. "These ships, they're ours." The team exchanged glances, stunned into silence. Human? Here? In the depths of an ocean trench, a million years forgotten? It didn't make sense. Nothing about this made sense. And yet, the evidence was right before their eyes. Ships that no longer belonged to the world they knew. One of the crew members checked the systems again. "Dr. Reynolds, there's something else. The ships, they're powering up." Lara's heart skipped a beat. "What?" "Look, the systems are starting to react to our presence." The submersible's sensors were picking up faint energy readings now, growing stronger by the second. Lara's mind raced. These ships had been buried under the ocean for millennia, possibly a million years, yet somehow, they were still functional. The magnitude of the discovery overwhelmed her. This wasn't just a relic of the past. It was something more. Something alive. As the submersible drifted closer, a slight hum resonated from the ships, as if their slumber was disturbed by the presence of the humans above. Lara could feel the weight of what they had uncovered. It was no accident. These ships were meant to be found. But why now? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden jolt. The lights of the submersible flickered briefly. "What the hell?" someone muttered. "I don't know, something's happening." Before they could finish the sentence, the control systems began flashing red. "Dr. Reynolds," Jonas called out urgently over the comms. "Get out of there." Whatever you've triggered, it's not safe. The hum from the ships grew louder, echoing through the submersible like a distant roar. Lara felt the weight of their presence pressing down on her, as if the ancient fleet was waking from a long, forgotten slumber. The ship closest to them began to light up, a faint glow illuminating its exterior in slow, pulsing waves. "We need to leave, now!" one of the crew shouted, panic rising in their voice. But Lara couldn't tear her eyes from the screen. Her pulse quickened as she stared at the massive vessels, their lights now fully alive. She knew in her gut that leaving wouldn't change anything. They had already awoken something far beyond their control. Her voice was calm, but resolute. "We're not leaving." The team glanced at her in confusion. "This fleet, it's not just a relic. It's a warning. And it's not here by accident." Lara didn't know how she knew that, but she could feel it in the depths of her being. These ships weren't built to be forgotten. They were waiting. For something. For someone. Another tremor shook the submersible. The lights flickered again, this time longer. "Dr. Reynolds. We stay." She cut Jonas off. "We need to know what this is." For a moment, there was silence. Then, as if responding to her words, the ships shifted. Slowly, impossibly, they began to rise from the ocean floor, the sediment and coral falling away like dust. The once buried fleet ascended, one by one, their massive hulls cutting through the water as though they had never been dormant at all. Lara's eyes widened. "My God!" she whispered, unable to comprehend the scale of what she was witnessing. This wasn't just a fleet. It was an army. And it was waking up. The hum of power was undeniable now, filling the submersible as the ships above continued their slow ascent. Dr. Lara Reynolds sat tense, her mind racing through the implications. A million-year-old fleet, built by humans long forgotten, and now it was awake, responding to their presence. But why? What had triggered it, and more importantly, what was its purpose? The comms crackled again, Jonas's voice tense. "Lara, whatever you've set off down there, it's affecting our instruments topside. We're picking up massive energy spikes. This isn't just some ancient relic, it's alive." She could hear the panic in his voice. They weren't prepared for this. No one was. Yet she remained calm, knowing they had no choice but to face whatever this was. They couldn't turn back now. "Send the data to command," she said, keeping her voice steady. "We need to figure out what we're dealing with before it's too late." "Already done," Jonas responded. "But they're not happy. Military's on alert. They're dispatching ships to our location. They think this could be a threat." "A threat?" Lara wanted to laugh. The real threat was their ignorance. They had stumbled on something far greater than any of them had imagined. The question now was whether they could survive it. The submersible systems beeped again, displaying a wave of information on the screen. Energy signatures, unlike anything on modern Earth, were pouring out from the ships above. The fleet was coming fully online. Suddenly, the screen flickered, and an image appeared. It wasn't random static or interference. It was deliberate. A face, if you could call it that, materialized in front of them. Holographic. Angular. Artificial. "I am the commander," a voice said, deep and mechanical, echoing through the vessel. "The defense fleet of Earth. Who awakens us?" Lara's breath caught in her throat. The others stared in stunned silence. This wasn't just an AI, it was the mind of the fleet itself. I'm Dr. Lara Reynolds," she managed to say, her voice tight. "We're human. From the surface. What is this fleet? What happened here?" The holographic figure tilted its head, as if processing her words. "Human," it repeated. "It has been a long time since we have heard that name. We were built for one purpose, to protect Earth from the enemy." Lara's heart pounded. "Enemy? Who? What enemy?" The commander's eyes flickered, and the submersible shuddered slightly as if the weight of its words was too great. "The Zeldar Dominion," it said. "They came to destroy us once. They will come again." There was a long pause. The air in the submersible felt thick, oppressive. The Zeldar Dominion? It sounded like something from a nightmare, a name that held power and dread. Lara had never heard of them, but the certainty in the AI's voice chilled her to the bone. What happened to them? She asked. They were defeated, the commander replied. But not destroyed. They have waited. And now we wait. For the final battle. Jonas's voice came through the comms, incredulous. Final battle? What the hell is it talking about, Lara? We're not at war. The Zeldar Dominion doesn't exist. This is some ancient paranoia, nothing more. Lara wasn't so sure. The AI wasn't acting irrationally. Everything it had done so far had been methodical, precise. It wasn't running on paranoia. It was running on purpose. And that purpose, it seemed, was tied to humanity's survival. Commander, Lara said, her voice firm now, the world has changed. We're not the same humans who built you. We've lost our knowledge of this war. But if what you're saying is true, we need to prepare. The commander regarded her for a moment, then spoke again. Your time is limited. The Dominion will come. And we will stand ready. But you must decide, will you fight as your ancestors did? Or will you be lost to history like the others? Lara's mind raced. This fleet, this massive technological marvel buried beneath the sea, was meant to protect them. But it was a weapon forged for a war that no longer existed, at least not in their current reality. And yet, the commander spoke with certainty, as if the return of this enemy was inevitable. She didn't have time to respond before the submersible's alarms went off. Lara! Jonas's voice broke through, panicked now. You need to get back to the surface. We've got a situation. What is it? She demanded, gripping the console. Military's inbound, and they're not playing around. They've detected the fleet's energy signatures, and they think it's hostile. They're planning to intervene. Lara cursed under her breath. This was getting out of control. The last thing they needed was a confrontation between the ancient fleet and Earth's current military. She had to stop it. Commander, she said quickly, our forces above think you're a threat. They don't understand what's happening. We need to communicate with them, explain. It is irrelevant, the AI interrupted. The defense of Earth is paramount. If your forces do not stand with us, they will fall. Lara's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a fleet, it was a war machine. And it wouldn't hesitate to destroy anything that stood in its way, even if that meant Earth's own people. We need time, she urged. Let us talk to them. Let us make them understand. The commander's holographic form flickered again. Time is not on your side, Dr. Reynolds. The enemy is coming. Before she could respond, the submersible jolted violently. What the? Lara gasped, clutching the seat as the lights flickered and dimmed. Lara! Jonas's voice was shouting now. We've got multiple naval vessels moving into the trench. They're armed. You need to pull back, now. Lara glanced at the screen, heart racing. The fleet above was fully active now, its ships rising like ghosts from the deep. And in the distance, she could see the first glimmers of modern military vessels descending toward them. If they opened fire, if the ancient fleet saw them as a threat. Commander, please! She shouted. Don't engage them. We can resolve this peacefully. The AI was silent for a long moment. Then, finally, it spoke. We will hold, it said. For now. But if they attack, we will defend. Lara exhaled, the tension in her chest easing just slightly. Thank you, she muttered, her mind already racing with plans. She needed to get to the surface, explain the situation to command, and prevent what could easily become a catastrophic battle between the past and present. But as the submersible began its ascent, Lara couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. The Zeldar Dominion was real. The fleet wasn't wrong. And if they didn't figure out how to unite humanity, both past and present, soon, there would be no future to protect. The alarms blared louder than before, reverberating in the control room as Jonas and the rest of the team watched the ancient fleet continue its slow ascent. Lara, still in the submersible, could see it now, ships from the modern military descending, unaware of what they were about to face. There wasn't much time left to avert disaster. "Lara, do you read me? They're coming in hot." Jonas's voice was strained with urgency. "They think it's a hostile force. You've got to stop them before this turns into a full-blown war." Lara gripped the controls, her mind racing. The fleet wasn't just a relic of the past. It was built for destruction on a scale that modern humanity couldn't comprehend. And now, the ancient AI was ready to defend Earth again, whether the present-day humans wanted it or not. "Commander, we're running out of time," she said, hoping the AI would listen. "The forces above are from Earth. There are people. They don't know who you are. They are not the ones we were created to protect." The commander replied, its voice unwavering. "They are not equipped to face what is coming. We cannot risk allowing them to interfere." "They don't need to interfere," Lara insisted. "You just need to trust me. I can make them understand." The commander hesitated for a brief moment, but then the voice returned colder. "If they fire, we will not stand idle." Lara knew the truth in that statement. The ancient fleet was far more powerful than anything on Earth today. The thought of these relics engaging with modern warships was enough to make her feel sick. But as she looked at the data pouring in, her gut told her something worse was on the horizon. The submersible reached the surface, and the open comms filled with chatter from the military forces. Command was in full alert mode, scrambling to understand the energy readings and growing more suspicious by the minute. Lara could see it clearly now: massive vessels, both ancient and modern, preparing for battle in the ocean trench. She was barely out of the submersible when a blinding flash appeared in the sky. Her breath caught. This wasn't a missile from the Earth forces, it was something else entirely. Something vast, descending from space with unimaginable speed and precision. Jonas's voice was trembling as he tried to relay information through the chaos. "Lara, that's not ours." And then it hit her, the Zeldar Dominion. The name that the commander had spoken with such certainty. The enemy that had come for Earth once before, now returning to finish the job. "They're here," she muttered under her breath. "They're really here." Above her, the ancient fleet's ships were shifting, their energy signatures spiking as they prepared for combat. The commander's voice returned over the comms. "The Zeldar has arrived. Prepare for battle." "Jonas, get me a line to command!" Lara shouted, rushing through the base. "They need to stand down. This isn't a drill anymore. The real threat is out there." Jonas was already scrambling to connect her, his fingers moving frantically over the controls. "Lara, the military is not going to listen. They're in panic mode. We've got reports coming in from all over. People are seeing things in the sky. Whatever these Zeldar are, they're moving fast." The Zeldar ships broke through the clouds, sleek and terrifying in their design, their black hulls reflecting no light, almost as if they were consuming the very atmosphere around them. The first wave had arrived, and with them, the full weight of their intent to destroy. Lara's heart pounded in her chest. "We have to make them stop. The Earth forces don't stand a chance against the Zeldar, not without the ancient fleet." Jonas's screen blinked, and Lara was patched through to command. The tension was palpable, voices shouting orders, scrambling to understand the unfolding crisis. She had seconds to make her case. "This is Dr. Reynolds. Listen to me carefully. The ships rising from the trench, they're not your enemies. They're the only thing that can stop what's coming. The Zeldar Dominion is here. You need to call off your attack and work with the fleet, or we're all dead." Silence on the other end. Then, finally, a gruff voice responded, clearly irritated but listening. "And how do we know this isn't some kind of trick? We have no intel on these Zeldar, and now you're telling me to stand down against a fleet of warships we know nothing about. You don't have a choice." Lara shot back, her voice shaking. "The ancient fleet was built to protect Earth from the Zeldar. If you attack it, you'll doom us all. We can't afford to fight each other. Not now." There was another long pause. Above her, the Zeldar ships began to fan out, hovering ominously above the ocean. Earth's military might was nothing in comparison to what the Zeldar brought with them. It was like watching ants prepare for battle against giants. Lara held her breath, waiting for the response. Then, the gruff voice returned. "We're pulling back, but this better not be a mistake." Relief washed over her, but it was short-lived. The real battle hadn't even begun yet. The Zeldar made the first move, a low-pitched hum echoing across the ocean as one of their ships fired a beam of energy straight into the sea. The blast hit with such force that waves crashed violently in all directions, a massive shockwave rippling through the water. The target had been clear, the ancient fleet. And then, the ocean seemed to roar as the ancient ships retaliated. The largest of the vessels powered up, its cannons locking onto the alien invaders. The two fleets clashed in a way that Lara had only ever imagined in science fiction, a battle not of Earth, but of galactic proportions. The sky turned into a storm of energy blasts, missiles, and lasers, the sheer force of the weapons lighting up the darkening evening. The air crackled with power as the ancient ships unleashed their devastating arsenal, a long-dormant weaponry that even Earth's modern forces couldn't have dreamed of. Yet the Zeldar ships moved with a terrifying grace, dodging attacks and retaliating with precision. They were ruthless, merciless. And it was clear that they weren't here just to fight, they were here to annihilate. Lara stood, eyes wide, as the battle unfolded. This was the war that humanity had forgotten, the one that the ancient fleet had been built to win. But now, with Earth caught in the crossfire, the stakes had never been higher. The commander's voice cut through the chaos once more. "Dr. Reynolds, this is only the beginning. The Zeldar's true power has yet to arrive. We must activate the final defense." Lara's pulse quickened. "Final defense? What are you talking about?" "The weapon buried beneath the ocean," the commander replied. "It was built to end this war. You must help us activate it." She hesitated for a moment, the weight of what the commander was asking hitting her. This wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about the future of humanity itself. Lara's decision was made. "Tell me what to do." Lara's mind raced as she absorbed the commander's words. A weapon buried beneath the ocean, built to end the war, this was the final card humanity's ancient ancestors had left behind. There wasn't any time for hesitation now. The Zeldar ships were circling above, their energy pulses growing more intense with each attack, and while the ancient fleet held them off for now, it was clear that they were far from invincible. "Tell me what I need to do," Lara said, her voice steady despite the fear gnawing at her insides. The commander's hologram flickered, its cold gaze fixing on her. "There is a control center within the largest ship," the AI explained. "It was designed to interface with Earth's deepest defense system, an energy weapon capable of annihilating fleets like the Zeldar. But the weapon was never completed before the last war ended. You must finish what was started." "How?" she asked, already calculating what this could mean. If the weapon was unstable, or worse, if activating it triggered something beyond their control, the consequences could be catastrophic. But with every second, the Zeldar's attacks intensified. The air itself seemed to tremble under their firepower. "There are key activation protocols stored within the command ship's core. You will need to input the final sequence manually. The system is still linked to the ancient technology beneath the sea. It's the only way to engage the weapon." Lara swallowed hard. This was it. There was no turning back. She relayed the instructions to Jonas and the rest of her team, preparing them for what they needed to do. It wasn't going to be easy. The forces they were dealing with were far beyond their understanding, and any mistake could mean the end for everyone on Earth. The Zeldar's offensive pushed harder, their ships weaving through the barrage of fire from the ancient fleet with ruthless efficiency. Every hit that landed from the Zeldar was precise, cutting into the hulls of the battlecruisers with deadly intent. Despite their advanced technology, the ancient ships were starting to show signs of wear. The Zeldar weren't just a threat, they were superior in ways that even the ancient AI hadn't accounted for. Lara entered the command ship, its massive, silent corridors vibrating with dormant power. She followed the path laid out by the commander, her footsteps echoing in the void. As she reached the core, the ship seemed to come alive around her, lights flickering on as if recognizing her presence. The control panel glowed faintly, waiting for her input. Dr. Reynolds, the weapon will require an enormous power surge to fully activate, the commander's voice warned. Once you begin the sequence, there will be no way to reverse it. You must ensure that the core remains stable, or the energy release could destroy the weapon and the planet. No pressure, Lara thought bitterly, her fingers hovering over the controls. She began inputting the final sequence, following the instructions carefully. The system responded with a low hum, and she could feel the power thrumming beneath her feet, an ancient force long forgotten but still potent. Outside, the battle raged on. The Zeldar were relentless, their sleek, black ships tearing through the defenses. The ancient fleet retaliated with everything it had, but it was clear they were running out of time. The Zeldar were too powerful, too fast. Every second counted. As the final code was entered, the core lit up, casting a blinding light across the command room. Lara shielded her eyes, watching as the panels around her began to shift, revealing a massive, cylindrical structure that extended deep into the earth below. This was the weapon, a colossal energy cannon buried beneath the ocean floor, its power source connected to the ancient fleet. Power level stabilizing, the commander intoned. The weapon is almost ready. Lara felt a flicker of hope, but it was short-lived. The ground beneath her shook violently, and alarms blared. Commander, what's happening? She shouted. The Zeldar are targeting the weapon's energy source. The AI responded, its tone uncharacteristically grim. They have detected our efforts. If they destroy the core before the weapon fully charges, we will lose everything. Lara's heart pounded. They were so close, but the Zeldar were closing in faster than they could react. The ancient ships were doing their best to hold them off, but it was a losing battle. The weapon needed time they didn't have. We need more power, Lara muttered, thinking fast. Can we divert energy from the fleet to speed up the charging process? It is possible, the commander said, but doing so will weaken our defenses. The fleet will be vulnerable. It was a dangerous gamble. If they diverted the energy, the fleet could fall, and if the fleet fell, the Zeldar would destroy the weapon before it could fire. But if they didn't, the weapon might not charge in time, and Earth would be lost either way. Lara clenched her fists. Do it! Divert the energy! The commander didn't hesitate. Within moments, the lights on the ships flickered as power was redirected, funneled into the core of the weapon. Outside, the ancient fleet's firepower dimmed, their shields weakening. The Zeldar took advantage of the sudden lapse in defense, pressing their attack with renewed ferocity. The control room shuddered again, and Lara knew the fleet couldn't hold out much longer. Commander, how much longer until the weapon is ready? She asked, desperation creeping into her voice. 70% charged, the AI replied. We need at least 2 more minutes. 2 minutes. It might as well have been 2 hours. Outside, the Zeldar ships were tearing through the fleet like paper, their energy beams slicing through hulls with terrifying ease. The ancient ships fought back with everything they had left, but it wasn't enough. One by one they began to fall. Lara watched the readouts on the control panel, her stomach nodding as the numbers ticked upward. 75%. 80%. The ground shook again, and she stumbled, catching herself on the console. Outside, another explosion lit up the sky as one of the largest battlecruisers disintegrated under the Zeldar assault. 90%. 95%. The weapon was almost there. But the Zeldar weren't slowing down. Their ships were descending on the weapon's location now, firing relentlessly at the ocean below, trying to destroy it before it could fire. Lara closed her eyes, bracing herself for the worst. She had done everything she could. Now, it was up to the weapon to save them. The core reached full charge, and a deafening roar filled the control room as the weapon activated. A massive energy beam shot from the ocean floor, arcing into the sky with blinding speed. The Zeldar ships barely had time to react before the beam hit, tearing through their ranks like a blade through air. The Zeldar fleet disintegrated in an instant, their ships exploding in brilliant bursts of light as the energy consumed them. One by one, the invaders were obliterated, leaving nothing but debris in their wake. Lara stood in stunned silence, watching as the weapon's energy faded, the sky clearing for the first time since the battle had begun. It was over. The Zeldar were gone. The commander's voice broke the silence. The weapon has fulfilled its purpose. Earth is safe, for now.